Hi guys, my name is Ms.Mora and I will be talking about how to use the ADDIE model in instructional design. So the ADDIE model actually stands for Analyze, Design, Development, Implementation, and Evaluation. It is important to note that it contains a very cyclical nature where designers can be led back to any previous step based on formative or summative evaluation. This method is very flexible for the construction of instruction as it is heavily influenced by learner dynamics, and since it's learner-centered, mechanisms also provide the best outcomes through continuous modifications if necessary. The analysis step is focused on the needs of the learners and what the learner will be doing throughout the instruction. The needs assessment will include the actual status of the learner is at and his current understanding of the material and the desired state, which is the purpose of the instruction as the designer creates an analysis of the discrepancy between the two to understand the gap that must be filled throughout instruction. Learner constraints focus on the context where the learning will take place, such as possible problems like technology access, student motivation, course length, among others that can account for a decrease in instructional success. Learner characteristics that are important to consider are the age groups by which it is important for how the material is presented, how is it explained, how are they motivated, their attention span, the collaboration that can occur between students, among others that really help formulate how to best provide instruction. Content delivery is also a key element that must be analyzed as each task may require a different way of presenting the information depending on the type of goal that the designer has created, which can be categorized as intellectual, attitudinal, or psychomotor. Each of these determine how the content is presented and what is expected to be displayed after the instruction has concluded. The design portion includes the objectives, understanding the skills needed, the steps needed for mastering the material, considering the subcomponents of each of the skills, and the terminal objective of the instruction. This is where the designer truly begins planning out how the instruction will take place and collaborate with the team, such as what software is going to be used, the organization of the lessons, module timeline, timeframes, among others that are crucial for navigating the material sequentially. The material will also include how the students will be assessed to ensure that accurate transfer occurs between the instruction and the end result, whether they can participate in a demonstration, a multiple choice exam, or a written examination. The instructional strategies come directly from the analysis stage where the learners were evaluated to ensure that the instructional strategies used will be effective for those students. Instructional strategies may include how the instructor models collaborative work, present the information in a graphic organizer, encourages critical thinking, or even creating projects with the knowledge gained, among others that can be used in an online setting or face-to-face. The designer will begin developing the material needed for the instruction, such as PowerPoints, worksheets, videos, rubrics, among others that target its audience needs through the lesson plan. It is vital that the material that is chosen to develop a lesson accurately helps students achieve the terminal goal through a systematic approach. Collaboration within the team functions to provide the best ideas for building the lesson and thinking of the methodology that is going to be used. Depending on the level of the learner, though, their motivational scheme, age, various methodologies can be explored that varies by depth of knowledge. Younger populations work well with behavioristic approaches that are developed in a game-like manner that rewards points, badges, or money to buy different dresswear for a virtual character or pet, and say things like good job, good try again, with immediate feedback per question response. Older populations can manage harder activities where analysis and higher order thinking is used, thus more cognitive and constructionist view are used to build on the material presented and allow students to deeply get into the material depending on the rigor of the course and its goals, such as maybe taking an EP course, a remediation course, a psychomotor course developed for future engineers, mechanics, plumbers, among others that can be developed. The activities that are required for the course should benefit the student in internalization and transfer of information that can be tracked using the developed assessment methods. It is important to note that courses that are created are not always going to be taught by the designer, thus there needs to be training for the teachers that will be delivering the content so they're familiar with the objectives, planned activities, assessment tools, among all the materials produced for the course. To begin testing the material with the learners, the designer must acknowledge that the learners has the capability for taking the course, such as having knowledge of the software that is going to be presented on so that it's familiar to them, have their required prerequisite knowledge where they can be successful with in observing the learners for any potential issues, really with their motivation or attitude towards the material. If the material goes against the beliefs of the majority of the learners, then maybe the design team can begin with the instruction by mentioning previous misconceptions about the topic, show various viewpoints, allow for discussion, among other techniques depending on what the lesson's goal is. Even though all learners have qualities that can adjust for the learner's speed, it is important that the time frame to complete the learning activities is the average time it takes for the average learner. Thus, it is a multitude of students are needed for the trial to allow for future modifications if necessary. So evaluation. So surveying students is critical to understanding the instructional goals are met and how effective the instruction was to close the gap between the actual status and the desired status. Even though the material may make sense to the designer or how it was planned, organized, and taught, there may be some misconceptions that were not taken into account when creating the instruction. If the material was not explained or presented in a way that made sense to the learner, then it must be revised to prevent future failure in the course. It is a lesson design issue and fails to show the advancement that the students could have made if the material was clear. The test trial offers results that may also show the discrepancies in how test questions are worded, if the goals are achievable with just one module, or should add more background information to aid the learner in transferring the material into the real world. It may also provide designers with noting questions that the majority of the students got wrong due to too much of a similarity between answer choices, or the question trying to trick the students instead of measuring their mastery in the content itself. Throughout this process, revisions are made to the content to ensure student success in the population where activities may be revised, either made more complex or simplified for that age group of students, reworded for the directions of the task, provide more or less time for presentation of the material, change the types of activities used to motivate and excite students to wanting to learn, or using more real-life connections to gain their attention. And these are really just some of the discussion questions that will be posted on our module also. Number 1 is, how can this model be used in a cyclical way? 2, why is it important to effectively understand the needs of the learners? And 3, how does this model compare to the traditional dig and carry model? And these are some of the works cited and the articles used to create this presentation. Thank you so much and have a good day.